example of one of the great rivalries in all of American sports. So to get you ready, we'll do the top 5 moments in Cowboys-Eagles rivalry history. We'll do these in reverse chronological order, and trust me, it was painful to leave things out. We start in 2010 on consecutive weeks, January 3rd and 9th. These teams met back-to-back games in Arlington. Cowboys shut out the Eagles 24-0 to clinch the division, set up a playoff rematch 6 days later. Cowboys won again, 34-14, agony in Philadelphia. That's number 5. To number 4, September 15th, 2008. Last ever Monday night game in the old Texas Stadium was a classic. 78 points on the board. Cowboys win it 41-37 in a game that included 7 lead changes, most combined points in a Dallas-Philly game ever. Terrell Owens caught 2 touchdowns in the game against his former team. Before that, we go back to December 10th, 1995, known forever as the 4th-and-1 game. In the fourth quarter, the game was tied at 17. Barry Switzer went for it on 4th-and-1 from his own 29. Eagles stopped him. 2-minute warning had been called, so they replayed the down. The Eagles stuffed Emmitt Smith again and went on to win it 20-17, one of the most legendary defensive stands of all time. Then we go back to 1989, and it got ugly. The Bounty Bowls, 1 and 2. These teams met twice in a 3-week span. Eagles shut about 27-0 on Thanksgiving in Dallas amid bounty accusations. Followed 2 weeks later when Eagles fans infamously rained down snowballs in a season sweep. There were body bags. They called those games the Bounty Bowls, and they talk about them forever. January 11th, 1981 is the Blue Jersey game, the NFC Championship game. Wilbert Montgomery, a 42-yard touchdown run. The Eagles of Dick Vermeil would win it 20-7 and go on to play in their first ever Super Bowl. These two teams meeting up in the Final Four. And so that's just a taste of the rivalry between the Cowboys and the Eagles, one of those traditional rivalries that propels this league. And Schefter has a fascinating note that he has been saving for me of how maybe the greatest chapter in this rivalry was almost written last week.
My God.
Well, it's certainly interesting because when the Dallas Cowboys were looking to trade Micah Parsons, one of the teams that showed the most interest in trading for Micah Parsons was the Philadelphia Eagles. They were fairly aggressive in trying to trade for Parsons, but the Dallas Cowboys obviously were not interested in trading Micah Parsons back to Pennsylvania, back in the division. They wanted him out of the division. I think there's been a lot of talk about why they sent him to Green Bay, why they sent him in conference. Well, at least they didn't send him in division. And the other thing that stands out that's interesting to me about this is people say all the time that, hey, you can't afford to make this move. There's not a lot of teams that have less cash, less cap space than the Philadelphia Eagles, and yet they were trying to figure out a way, and would have figured out a way, to get Micah Parsons under their cap if Dallas was willing to trade him to the Eagles, which they weren't, but the Eagles certainly made an effort.
I love Howie Roseman. I love, I mean, the gonads on that guy to go and call it an individual rival and be like, hey guys, what do you think? I know, listen, generational talent, but we got to get this guy. And for him to try to go and do that after I saw what he did with the A.J. Brown trade with my Titans, I mean, he's goated.
Howie Roseman generally manages his football team like it's a fantasy football team, and yet he manages to make it work. All the other teams talk about why they can't do this and can't get that and can't make this cap decision, and he just drafts the best players regardless of the questions, and he signs the best players, and that's why the Eagles are the best team. They kick that off tonight. And Schefter, let's talk a little bit about the way they're approaching this. I want to play the sound bites again. Tonight, the Eagles will raise their Super Bowl banner in front of their home crowd to continue their celebrations. But if you listen to some of their players and their coach, they are not paying any attention to that at all.
I think from the outside, I think the city and everybody has been talking about it, but you know, this building has been locked in. You know, we put it at the bed long ago. And like I said, we just ready to go. You know, that's over with.
Yeah, I didn't know it was banner night. We won't be out for that.
I didn't know it was banner night. For those who may be wondering, the traditional Thursday night kickoff always features the Super Bowl champion and always features the raising of the banner. So that might have been the first clue. But what do you make of the coach of the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, saying, I didn't even know, we're not going to be out there to watch the banner go up?
Yeah, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are the modern-day Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Just total alignment. Like, I remember Belichick and Brady constantly saying stuff and being like, there's no way you actually think that or feel that way or you operate like that. And it feels the same way. Jalen's just robotic and maniacal and very focused, not out in the public like Tom was when he was playing. And Sirianni, there's no way that he doesn't know. But he says it and you're like, maybe he didn't really know. Like the same way Coach Belichick would say stuff when we'd be like, there's no way that you think that way. It just feels like their alignment and the way that they're so hyper-focused and blocking out the noise, it's very Belichick-Brady-like.
Who did Jalen spend a lot of time with this offseason?
Well, Jalen Hurts spent a lot of time trying to pick the brain of Michael Jordan. Had multiple conversations with him, had dinner one night in the offseason, somewhere in Europe. I'm not even exactly sure where, but he wanted to know the key to the mindset and trying to repeat and what it would take. And so I think there's been so much thought from this team about putting last year behind it and not paying attention to it and getting on to this year. Thus, not being out there for the banner ceremony, thus not trying to put too much focus and emphasis on what they've done and rather what they will try to do. And so this is a team that's really been conscientious of that. They don't want to bask in those confetti showers starting tonight.
Yeah, there's a rule in football. It's like when you win the game, lose the game, or draw, like you take 24 hours, you feel the emotion of the game, and you move on. I understand what the Eagles are trying to do. Like, let's put this to bed. Let's move on. Let's try to make this not a distraction. And I love Sirianni, future friend of the show. But I do want to say, like, it's probably a little much. It's like, I didn't even know this was going on. I think he's just really trying to drive home to his team that, like, listen, that's over. That's done with. We need to move on and focus on.
But that's what feels like Belichick like.
That's the point I want to drive home.
And that's the thing about it.
Danny O is a man of chaos. He's got the Arch Manning generational talent tweet. Now he's comparing Sirianni and Jalen Hurts to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. A man of chaos, because you know what the internet's going to do with it. But we were at training camp. This team is very poised. The leadership and culture they have there, they're ready to turn the page. They're going to be focused on 2025.
Mentality is one thing. Are the Eagles the best team? Are the Eagles the best team in the
You just said the Ravens are the best team in the last block.
No, in the AFC
NFC.
roster-wise.
In the NFC.
I see where you did the split there. I thought I had you. I thought I had you.
Back in your chair, buddy.
There's a little piece of this thing that I think sometimes gets forgotten. And our buddy Brian Windhorst always says winning the championship means never having to say you're sorry. It changes all of the dynamics. But this is not an Eagles team that last year had a fully smooth ride. This was the season of Jalen Hurts in the passing game that we were measuring in feet at one point.
Yeah.
This was A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline. There was legitimate conversation about Nick Sirianni's job security. The Detroit Lions were the best team in the NFC all of last year until they were completely dismantled by injury on defense. So with that in mind, again, it's easy to remember how it ended. I ask again, are the Eagles clearly the best team in the NFC going into the season?
Yes, and they have the quarterback that you have to go through when it matters, win or go home the most. If anybody can say whatever they want about Jalen Hurts, and yes, there were struggles in their pass game last year. It's the best roster in the NFL, certainly the best roster in the NFC. While losing the offensive coordinator, they have the quarterback that when it's win or go home seems to show up just as much as anybody.
They've been clutch, they've been great, and they may be the best roster. But they do have question marks going into the season. You mentioned the offensive coordinator. We talked about the cornerback position. Losing Darius Slay. We don't know exactly how Adoree Jackson is going to hold up. There's some questions about the secondary. There's some questions about the pass rush.
Yes.
All the talent they lost up front. So as good as they are, and they are really, really good, we have to see some questions answered tonight. What is the stat? 21 straight years without a repeat champion
In the NFC East.